A very good evening to all our viewers and welcome to today's edition of the Evening Review. My name is Toiwan Jabela, your host. This week, the world observed the International Day for Poverty Eradication, and we've seen pronouncements coming from different sectors of our country in light of the day, including, of course, State House, which we saw President Hage Geingob saying his food bank initiative was successful, feeding 50,000 Namibians who were in hunger. And to unpack just the day and issues around poverty in general is Rinaani Musutua. She is with the Basic Income Grant Coalition, which has been pushing for certain initiatives to overcome poverty in our country. Rinaani, it's a pleasure to have you on the set. I've never had you on the show before, but it's such a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me in the studio.
Yeah, wonderful. How was the day commemorated from your side as the BIG coalition?
Yes, we spent about a half a day with a pre-primary school in Havana called the DIC Pre-Primary School.
Yeah.
We talked to the children about poverty. I believe that we really tried to make it as simple as possible for them, and I believe that most of them did understand because of the questions they were asking. And we also screened a Namibian animated film called Casa, and also did songs and dancing with them, and we had a guy on stilts entertaining the children.
Yeah.
And then after all that, we had a lovely lentil soup together.
Okay.
And we also donated a bit of food just so that some of the children that come in the morning on an empty stomach can have something to eat.
Wonderful.
At the school.
Yeah.
So we are hoping to make that a regular thing. We're going to start asking supermarkets to see if you can get food from them. We can distribute in the preschools around that area.
Yeah. You had another event, was it Wednesday or Tuesday?
Yes, it was Tuesday evening.
Okay. What was that about?
So that event was about identifying different areas or options that government has to finance a basic income grant, because the government accepts the fact that basic income grant would be the best thing to do to eradicate or at least reduce poverty. Let me not use strong words like the president, eradicate.
Yeah.
No, I would rather say reduce poverty and inequality.
Yeah.
But then we are stuck with always being told there's no money, there's no money. So we had Jacob from UNICEF to take us through the different options that the government has to finance a basic income grant, and also the socioeconomic impact of long-term, poverty and inequality on human development.
Yeah.
So yes, it was all about, demystifying the government's excuse of not having money, to invest in poverty eradication programs like the Universal Basic Income Grant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it an excuse that they don't have money? I don't see any money around.
There is a lot of money. Believe me, there's a lot of money. First of all, where's the money from corruption coming from?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's always money for their things, right?
Yeah.
Whenever they want to do something, money has to be made available. Whenever there's a state funeral, which we find really unnecessary, there's always money available immediately, not knowing where it comes from. Namibia is not a poor country.
Yeah.
Really, we are rich with resources. Mineral resources, the fisheries that we have is unbelievable. What is it that's not being done right so that those industries that we have bring proper income for the government, revenues for the government, in order to invest that in poverty eradication programs like the Basic Income Grant. The illicit financial flows, the government doesn't have really proper structures in place to make sure that people don't cheat on taxes and take money out of the country illegally. The Chinese do that all the time as well. It's not only the fisheries and the mining industry that do that. The member of parliaments, the perks that they get, that's just way too much. housing allowance, vehicle, entertainment, furniture. You know, I mean, we are in a crisis here. They should have thought of cutting down on those things to take care of their people. We are talking about people's lives here, right? And the foreign trips that are constantly being taken by the president, that we really have to reduce that, because it costs us a lot of money that we could invest in human development. And the presidential jet, I think it should be sold.
It should be sold.
It should be sold to make sure that, because I mean, poverty is so harmful on our people, on human development, right? You cannot have a productive nation if you have people who are hungry all the time and constantly stressed, because what stress does is that it reduces your ability to, you know, to think straight, and it reduces your IQ, to say as well. So we should try and make sure that, you know, we find the money. The money is there. We can find it. There's so much money that, you know, some of those ministries return to the government that haven't been used.
Absolutely.
Why don't we make sure that, you know, there's proper management of our resources to make sure that we invest in poverty eradication measures? Because this is a crisis that we are going through now. You know, we have 800 people starving, literally starving. Yes. And 1.6 million people poor in the country. It's difficult if you are up there. You would never know how it feels like until you are put in that situation. You know what I mean? That's the only way then the change would come, is if we reverse the
absolutely. Put yourself in the shoes of others.
Exactly.
Speaking of those staggering numbers that you just mentioned, 800,000 people that are in poverty or hungry rather, and then 1.6 million that are in poverty. When I listen to those numbers and I compare them to what the president said a few days ago, that, you know, his food bank initiative was a success. It fed 50,000 people. When I hear 50,000 people, then compared to those numbers, it's a drop in the ocean.
It is. I mean, first of all, there's nothing to be proud of. The food bank is nothing to be proud of, because other people are moving beyond the fourth industrial revolution. And here we are still feeding people. People should be feeding themselves by now. Why haven't we done things, do things properly, in a proper way, to make sure that people can feed themselves? Besides, the food bank, yes, it was helpful, but as you said, it was a drop in the ocean. A lot of people were left out. You know, a lot of needy families, because what happened with the food bank was that it's people in the communities that would come from the office of the constituency office. They were the ones that were appointing people. I mean, you know, choosing who's going to get what. And obviously that became a political tool. People were using that as a political tool, you know, giving the food bank to their comrades and things like that. So a lot of people that were really, really in need of it were left out. Unfortunately, it's really nothing to be proud of, although, yes, it did help where it could help. But the thing is that you would also get a situation whereby people were selling food. It's not like they didn't need the food, they needed money for something else. Sanitary pads, toothbrush, maybe money for a taxi to go to school or clinic or to town to do something or buy some airtime. So now that's why we are saying it's fine that the government converted the food bank into a Harambee cash grant, but we are saying, but that's only benefiting 45,000 Namibians, right? And we have so many poor people in the country. So why not increase the coverage of the Harambee Food Bank and give it to all the Namibians from 0 to 59, the 500 Namibian dollars each month per person, not per household like it is being done now. That's why you get people, the San people somewhere in the Kavango region, I can't quite remember, were complaining about the money is not enough. They were unhappy with the basic income grant, what. But that's not even a basic income grant. There was a Harambee cash grant, because basic income grant doesn't work like that.
It's universal.
It's universal. It's not means tested. You know, everybody gets it. So obviously we understand that the government maybe was trying to implement what we have been recommending this whole time, but it's not really. There wasn't the way to do it. There was. You know, we've got so many poor people, they should increase the coverage to make sure that we have a proper impact on poverty, because we are going through a crisis right now. This is a crisis. People out there are really struggling. It's a huge crisis that we are having. There were kids in hospital the other day that was rescued by the African Unicorn is a charity organization that also has a feeding program. And those kids were 1.5 years old, and they were suffering from malnutrition to the extent that, 1.5-year-old child should be walking already. But those kids were not even able to walk. Their bodies were small as 6 months old babies, and one of them was so close to dying. That's how, starved those children were. And how come? Why is there no help for people like that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what we are saying is that the government must make sure that the people that are, the most in need mustn't fall through the all these loopholes that means testing creates.
Absolutely. I'm just wondering also then, it's absolutely correct to say that the country has so many resources. I tweeted this week and I said, we have an opportunity as a country to eradicate. I know that you're scared of the word, but we actually have an opportunity to eradicate poverty completely, maybe 10 years from now, if we were serious and very deliberate in our efforts. People are talking about fuel, people are talking about green hydrogen, and then the existing resources that we have that do not seem to reach people. How did we get here? How did we get to these levels of poverty and hunger?
I think that we have stopped being a society. We are not a society anymore. Everybody is left on their own. People are left to fend for themselves. We are not, one Namibia, one nation. That we are definitely not that. Everybody's out there to enrich themselves. Because people are left to fend for themselves, there has been, a kind of like a bad atmosphere has been created in the country whereby people have become selfish. Everybody's out there to enrich themselves, and then you forget about the other people. So people actually, that has also impacted on our work ethics. That people are not really doing what they're supposed to be doing to make sure that things fall into place and things are done properly, and to make sure the country runs smoothly. So if I don't know, what we believe is that if you at least implement the basic income grant, people will feel like there's something they're benefiting from their natural resources. And hopefully that will also, minimize the fact that this thing of people not feeling that they are part of this society, maybe that will bring the togetherness together, maybe that will improve our Ubuntu spirit and make it grow, and hopefully, people will start doing what they need to do to make sure that things fall into place and people are taken well care of. It's just become, I think, yes, the problem is greed. Greed. People are after money, and they've forgotten that there are other people in the country as well that, that need to be taken care of. And yes, things are not being done to make sure that the country is properly run, to make sure that everybody is catered for and are living, decent human lives.
Indeed. We go for a quick break and return for the second part of the show.
My.NA Property Show provides viewers with the best in-class content, engaging interviews, as well as a showcase of the latest property-related products and services. If you would like to feature your brand or your campaign on this platform, contact My.NA at synergy.com.na. My.NA Properties, more than just a roof over your head.
All I wanna do, spend some time with you. All I wanna do, spend some time with you. All I wanna do, spend some time with you. It's all I wanna do is spend some time with you.
Our conversation on the show continues. Speaking of basic income grant itself, a lot of people feel it's unrealistic, especially when it's universal and not targeted. Not only in the context of the resources that we have or do not have, But where do you guys as a coalition draw that inspiration from? Where has it been applied anywhere in the world that you think can be replicated here?
Okay, the closest example that I can give is the state of Alaska in the United States of America. They have something similar to a universal basic income grant. So each and every of their residents get a check at the end of the month. Yeah, something like basic income grant. And that money is actually money that has been taken from the state's oil. They got lots of oil.
Yes.
And they invested on stock markets, and then the profit that they make from the stock market is then what they come and give to their citizens, just like that, each and every one of them, per month.
Yeah.
It's a permanent thing that they do. And that it means that it's possible. It can be done everywhere else in the world. And the thing is that with Namibia, we already have structures like that. We can take, for example, the universal old age grant. That is working really well. It's given to all the old people, you know, pensioners, whether you are rich or not. It is regarded an economic right. Sorry. That's why it was made universal. And you know, the way it's done in such an easy way. There's not so much being spent on administration and red tape. And I'm 100% sure that we can also, you know, apply that, what we know from the old age grant, we can apply to implement the basic income grant. It shouldn't be something really difficult because we already know how to do it. And you can also tell by the 750 Namibian dollars emergency income grant that people got at the beginning of 2020 when the COVID-19 broke out. It was done in such an easy way, in a quick way. That just showed that Namibia is really capable of making sure that you know, everybody is rich when it comes to receiving the basic income grant. We already have the structures or the infrastructure in place for that. We already have the experience in that. So it's definitely something that can be done in Namibia. It shouldn't be very difficult at all.
Yeah. How much are you proposing at the moment? I know that when it first started, especially those, my English bundles are depleted now. When we were at Oshivero and what was the other, Omitara?
Yeah, Oshivero, Omitara.
Yeah. I know that the amount was about $100 at the time.
Yes.
But what are we proposing at the moment? What is the sort of figure that can really help?
We believe that the 500 would be really helpful. The food prices have increased now, but at least it will make it possible for people to afford, you know, just basic food, so that they can continue to struggle, because you can't struggle on an empty stomach. You cannot achieve anything on an empty stomach, to say. So that will give people the opportunity to at least buy maize meal, cooking oil, you know, mince meat if necessary, or whatever it is that, you know, a 500 can buy in Namibia. It's just you know, just to cover the basics. That's all that it is really. This 500 that we are asking for. It should be more, but unfortunately, we cannot do that. Then we'll get lots of resistance, especially from you know, business owners, obviously, and the government as well. But there was a time that Minister Ipumbushimi, the finance minister, said that he felt that the best amount would be around 600-700 if there was going to be a grant implemented. So I mean, we are very close to what he suggested. So 500 should be, you know, something that the government can afford, really. Yeah.
I mean, there are government leaders who have been flip-flopping on this issue. President Hage Geingob, in the formative years of this idea, was a proponent of this thing. Came into office, inspired hope within the BIG coalition and sympathizers of that idea that maybe now we have a president who believes in this concept and it will come to fruition. Nothing came out of it. Same as former Minister Zefania Kameta, who was a poverty eradication minister. And once he ascended to that office, talk of basic income grants simply died. Where do you get the hope that one day somehow you will still get that breakthrough?
It's only if the Namibian people themselves, get up and stand up and start demanding better. So our main job is to mobilize the Namibians themselves to stand up and start demanding basic income grant.
Yeah.
Because that's the little that this government can do for the people. So we really hope that all the Namibians in this country will rally behind the basic income grant coalition and also start demanding the basic income grant themselves, because it's not for us. It's for the Namibian people. They should be demanding it, especially the youth who are so much suffering in this country. Talking about 50% youth unemployment.
Yeah.
And there are absolutely no opportunities for them out there, and they are really frustrated.
Yeah.
And they should be the ones demanding that this little that the government can do for them. Yes, absolutely. So hopefully with also the change of leadership,
Yeah.
We're hoping that somebody else might come and we're hoping for better.
Yeah.
But the reason why it has never happened, I believe that it's a carrot and stick situation here. People use it as an election ploy, like it was used before, obviously.
Yeah.
So I believe that when people are poor, they are not in control of their country, of their lives. They are not in power. So the politicians obviously wouldn't want to empower people, because when people are not empowered, they are easy to control and promise things to, so they keep voting for you. And once you empower people, because that 500 Namibian dollars, I believe it will change people's lives. It might take maybe 5 years, but after, when people at least know that there's this constant income coming in, that 500 Namibian dollars, their mindset changes a little bit. They start thinking differently, because poverty, you can't think. Your IQ reduces as well.
Yeah.
So it will lead to some sort of empowerment, so that people start thinking differently, and start opening their eyes and starting realizing that we were really struggling here. Now we have the power and the strength to demand better from these people that have promised us to eradicate poverty and take care of us, which they haven't done at all.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that one day the Namibian people will rise and start demanding better, and hopefully also start demanding basic income grant as the economic right.
Yeah.
Because we have so many resources as well. Which Namibian do you know can tell you have benefited from our natural resources? And we believe that the basic income grant represents a share of our natural resources.
Yeah.
If you gave each Namibian that 500 Namibian dollars per month, they would maybe feel like, wow, yes, now I feel like I'm part of this country, and look, I'm getting a 500, I'm benefiting from the country's resources and all these. It will really give people that feel good effect that maybe the politicians are really afraid of.
Yeah.
Might put them into trouble, and people become clever and start demanding better.
Yeah. The final question, and just briefly, Rinaani, is people saying, if you start giving these freebies, people become lazy and complacent and not pursue their life goals. What do you say to that, briefly?
Oh my gosh, 500 Namibian dollars. That is so little.
Yeah.
I don't know who would stay and sleep at home just because of a 500 that can only afford you a few, basic things.
Yeah.
That's very little money. And besides, the Oshivera pilot project that we did in 2008, 2009, that project is world renowned. It's a well-respected project all over the world. It has been quoted in 100 studies across the world.
Yeah.
That project, actually, the results were scientifically validated, and it proved that people who were in receipt of that grant, they were more prone to opening their own businesses. And that's really what happened with all the other 129 projects across the world as well. There was always this constant finding that people who were receiving the basic income grant, universal, were always willing and ready to start their own businesses.
Yeah.
So I really don't know how that would make people lazy. It's too little money. And I think the same people who are saying that are the people who are in an advantage position.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be able to put themselves in somebody's shoes and maybe they don't trust themselves as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you don't trust yourself, so you also become suspicious of other people that, oh, maybe they will do this and that and this and that. So, you know, let everybody speak for themselves.
Indeed.
And we cannot punish people if something, you know, maybe somebody uses the money in the wrong way. It's their money, it's their economic right.
Absolutely.
We cannot punish a few people who are misusing the money, you know, punish those few, punish the rest of the people.
Yeah.
Just for those few people who will be misusing the money. That's not the right way to do it at all.
Indeed.
You know, people deserve help and it should be now.
Indeed. Rinaani, it was a pleasure having you on the set.
Thank you so much, Trevor. I enjoyed being here.
Wonderful. That was Rinaani Musutua from the BIG Coalition speaking to us about the levels of poverty, the challenges that the common man in our country faces. Thank you for watching.